the Romans gave us roads, aqueducts, and the calendar we still use. But they also gave us some truly weird stories, from strange taxes to peculiar emperors. Here are 5 weird stories from ancient Rome. Let's start with a classic, the ancient Roman urine tax. Yes, you heard that right. During the reign of Emperor Vespasian in the 1st century AD, public urinals became an actual source of government income. People would collect urine from public toilets and use it for things like tanning leather and washing clothes. This is mainly because urine contains ammonia, which is great for cleaning. Vespasian saw this as an opportunity to make some money and slapped a tax on the collection of urine. When his son Titus questioned how gross this was, Vespasian held up a coin and said, "Money doesn't stink." And just like that, taxing urine became Roman policy. Now let's talk about the second weird story, and this one is about Nero, one of Rome's most infamous emperors. See, in 67 AD, Nero traveled to Greece and decided to compete in the Olympic Games. The only problem, he wasn't really an athlete, but that did not stop him. He entered a chariot race with 10 horses instead of the usual 4, and even with that advantage, he still somehow fell off his chariot during the race and didn't even finish. But guess what? He still won. Why? Well, because he was emperor, and no one was brave enough or foolish enough to tell him otherwise, making Nero one of the only people to have won a medal while losing. Now let's move on to the third story, with Emperor Elagabalus. Arguably one of the weirdest emperors in Roman history. His dinner parties were unforgettable, but not in a good way. See, this guy had a sense of humor that only he seemed to enjoy. At his feasts, instead of real food, he'd sometimes serve fake dishes made out of wax or wood. Imagine lifting the lid off a fancy plate expecting roast duck, only to find a carved piece of wood made to look like real food. But it did not stop there. He also liked to prank his guests by releasing wild animals like lions and leopards into the dining room. Thankfully, they were declawed and mostly tame, but still, imagine going to a dinner party only to realize you might be the food. Some guests even found themselves suddenly under a collapse, not from the ceiling, but from a bunch of flower petals dropping from the sky until people quite literally suffocated from the weight of the petals. It became hard to tell if it was a dinner or a survival challenge. Now let's talk about the fourth story, which is about Emperor Commodus. Yes, the same guy from the movie Gladiator. Commodus wasn't just a fan of the gladiator games, he wanted to be one, and he did so. Commodus suited up, stepped into the arena, and fought in gladiator matches himself. He saw himself as a god and thought the people would love watching their emperor battle it out. And sure, they did like it and they did cheer, but more so because they were terrified of what would happen if they didn't. But it's important to note that he didn't fight in normal battles like the other gladiators. No, he usually fought injured or heavily weakened opponents, sometimes even people armed with wooden swords or no weapons at all. There are even stories of him fighting wild animals while standing safely on a platform, shooting them with arrows. Not exactly fair play, but Commodus did not care. He charged the Roman treasury huge sums of money for each of his quote-unquote victories. He declared himself the new Hercules and even renamed Rome after himself. He is definitely one of the most crazy emperors Rome has ever had, which is saying something. Now the last story is another weird one. See, Roman doctors had some very creative ideas. Let's talk about Roman dental care, and I use care very loosely. See, if you were brushing your teeth in ancient Rome, you might have been using mouse brains. Yes, that's not a joke. Some Roman recipes for toothpaste included mashed up rodent brains mixed with other lovely ingredients like ashes or crushed bones. So yes, instead of things like mint to make your breath fresh, the Romans instead opted for crushed up mouse brains. And when it came to medicine, doctors would use fermented fish guts for just about everything, from cleaning wounds to curing stomach aches, and if that didn't work, then they might prescribe animal poo. Yes, elephant poo, crocodile poo, all types of wild animal poo was considered important for health reasons. But it wasn't just animal things that the Romans used. Oh no, they even believed that drinking a gladiator's liver or blood could cure epilepsy or give you strength. Yes, so imagine the people going to the gladiator games not to cheer for the gladiators to win, but to cheer for them to lose so they could ingest their blood or liver to become stronger. Pretty weird stuff, but all of this did show that the Romans were aware of natural things with medicinal benefits, prompting them to try out a lot of different things. So there you have it, 5 of the weirdest stories from ancient Rome, from taxing urine to emperors winning the Olympics by losing. It was a very weird time. And so if you enjoyed this story, then leave a like, comment, subscribe for more short and long stories about ancient history.